Okay, so now we're going to get into creating new fields in our listing here and have them filled with formula sometimes, where we'll end up getting like an indicator, like some sort of a graphic. And the first thing I want to show you, and I kind of modified the project a little bit. I have removed a number of resources from the task. So a number of tasks that we have on our list here have no resources, okay? And what I want to do is create an indicator, maybe like a round stoplight type indicator, maybe to the left side of the name here, that will show red if there is no resource on the task. All right, so what we'll do here is we're going to insert a new field here. It'll push everything over, so we'll do a right click there, hit insert column, and this is going to be, we're going to use a flag field. So we got all these. I mean, when you see a lot of these duplications just with numbers after them, these are, a lot of them are customizable fields that we can fill with pretty much any kind of information that we want. So in this case, we're going to go find flag. There's flag. Click onto it. All right. Now, we're going to do a right click on it again. And this time we're going to go down to where it says custom fields. All right. So flag 1 is our field. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a formula into this field that will make it come alive with some sort of a content. All right. So we're going to go over here to where it says formula, and we're going to tell it that flag 1 equals, and I'm going to, just to save some time, I'm going to paste in the formula. And basically what it's saying is, if in the summary, if looking at the summary and the milestones, and or not looking at the summary, not looking at the milestone, but looking at the resource names, if in the resource name area, if it's blank, and that's what the two quotation marks are, then put the word true in there, and if not, then false. So basically, it'll pop up as being true on those cells or those rows where there is no resource name. Pretty straightforward. Notice too that the function that we're using is the if function, but it's the database version of if, which is just two i's, so if, or IIF, right? Or if. Okay. All right. So that's the formula. Hit OK. It just tells us it's going to be overriding whatever was in there. Hit OK on that one. Now, if that's all I did, and I hit OK, then I would get no's on the one that have my resource name in it, and I have yeses on those where where there is no resource. So that's all because of what we have in here. So it's true. If it's blank, it's true. So if it doesn't have a resource, it's true. If it does have a resource, then it's false. All right. So we're looking at the trues basically, right? All right, to come in there. So if you end up seeing true, that'll be on those tasks that have no resource, and that'll be a yes. But we don't want to just have a yes, no in here. We want to have a graphical indicator instead, make it kind of fancy looking, right? So what we'll do is we'll go back over here to where it says this values to display, and it says data. Well, we're going to tell it we want graphical indicator instead. And what we're going to say is if it's equal to, in this case, yes, all right, so if it's equal to yes, then the image that we want to have in there might be what? Let's say maybe a red circle there, like a stoplight there, right? And that's it. You hit OK. And the other little thing we can do too is we can also rename this. And I like to maybe call it maybe like maybe no RES or something like that. So we can just hit rename, type in no, and then maybe RES, something like that. Hit OK. So now that'll be the kind of like the alternative for it, like the nickname, and that's what's going to show up, as you can see here, on the heading. So then we go ahead and hit OK, and there we go. Now what I can do is I can go narrow this up quite a bit. I can even do something like that if I didn't care about the name. And then I can also do in here is I can do a right click. I can go to the field settings and tell it that I want the title or whatever's in there, align the title, align the data. I want that to be centered. So both can be centered. Hit OK, and then it kind of moves over a little bit. So that's pretty cool. So neat little thing. So I can actually look down the list and see which tasks don't have our resource on there. Now, let's say at some point now, I'll go maybe to this task here, right? Hit resource, assign resource. I'll find somebody. I'll put Ray in here. Assign, and close, and there we go. Now if I go maybe down to this task here, and I decide to take the resource off, so I'll go over here to assign resources. There's Gomez. Oops, so I'll go right on that cell there, hit remove, close it up, and now I've got an indicator on that one. Okay, so now another indicator that we're going to be putting in is one that will show us that a particular task has finished later than what was baseline. So just to show you something about this, if I go back over here to format and I go to the slippage here, and I tell it that I want to see what kind of slippage I have, in other words, how it's slipped off of the baseline. I click onto that, and you can see on some of these tasks where you see like a skid mark there. Well, that's a slippage. Originally, that bar was like here, but because of things having changed up here, after the baseline was established, after that budget was established, it shows that slide. So what I'm going to do is come up with an indicator to tell me if there's any slippage. Then I want an indicator to kind of shine up and say, yep, right here is one. All right. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do a right click on the task name area. And by the way, too, I went in there and I changed this name to just NR, just so you know. In case you're kind of wondering if your eyes are deceiving you, I did that after I paused the video. Anyway, or actually between these two different things here. Anyway, so we're going to do a right click up there. We're going to tell it we want to insert a column, which means we're going to insert a field. This is also going to be a flag type field. All right, so we'll go ahead and this time we're going to go with flag 2. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll do a right click on that, and we'll go into the custom fields here. Okay, so now the field we're using is field 2 here. So now we're going to go ahead and put, or flag 2, I mean. And then we're going to go ahead here to the formula, and we're going to tell it the formula is, and I'm going to paste this one in as well because you guys don't want to watch me type it in. Oh yeah, and I don't really need this part here, so let me just get rid of this first here, and then I'll explain it here. All right, so what's going to happen with this formula is if the finish variance, in other words, the date that it finishes on each of the tasks, is beyond or greater than what the baseline was, meaning if it's greater than 0, then we want the word true to come up, and if not, we want the word false. All right, so that's going to be our first thing. All right, so you get that. So we got the if function in here. So if the variance is greater than 0, meaning the number of days beyond when it was supposed to finish, which should be anything over 0. If that happens, give me a true. If not, give me false. Now, at that point then, what we want to do is we don't want it to just say true, false, or yes, no, or whatever in the column. So we're going to go ahead and tell it that we want a graphical indicator to show. And the graphical indicator will show instead by going to graphical indicators and telling it that the item has to equal, and we want to put in here yes, all right, which is the same thing as true, all right. And if that's the case, then we want it to look like, I don't know, we'll do a little red plus there, or orange, whatever that is. Okay, so we've done that. We hit OK, and there we go. And we could probably also go in here and maybe rename the heading there, for the field name. And we can just go back into here again, go to rename, and we'll just call it late. All right, and then we'll hit OK. You'll see a change, and then we'll hit OK again. There we go. We can also go in there and go to the field settings and get the title to go center as well as the graphic. Hit OK on that. There we go. I'm going to make that a little bit narrower. So that's pretty cool. So we can actually look down here and see which ones are, that are late, basically, that have finished late or what have you, given changes in the project. All right, so. Okay, so here's another one. We have a variety of resources applied to our project, to each of the tasks here. And we've given each of them a group name. So let me just give you an idea here. Let me go back to our resource sheet. All right. So you can see with these guys right here, these are so these 4 reps are part of our, what we call the hourly or the hour group, right? And what I like to do is put an indicator next to each of the tasks that uses one of my hourly or hour type resources. All right, so how do we go about doing that? So we'll go back to our Gantt chart here. And I think I'll put the indicator, well, I guess we'll just kind of put it next to this one here. Actually, I'll tell you what, we'll put in between. Because this one here was showing, the ones that didn't have a resource, right, applied to them. So we'll have this one being the hour ones, right? So we'll just kind of push everything over. So we'll just do a right click on that. We'll go back to insert column. And we're going to do another flag. We'll do a flag 3 now because we've used flag 1 and 2. All right. And it usually comes up with something there. Just ignore whatever's in there. And then we'll do a right click on there and tell it we want to customize the field. And right off the bat, I'm going to rename the field so I don't forget. And I'll type in hour, so that would be the resource hour, that hour group. Okay, so then we need to put the formula in. So we click on the formula, and hour is going to equal to the resource group called hour. Okay, so what we can do here is we can click on our little field thing here, go to text, and you'll see resource group. All right, and we're going to say it has to equal, and then in quotation marks we'll put the word hour. Uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. And that's it. And then once we've done that, we go ahead and hit OK. Hit OK again, and that's it on that. So instead of having like a yes and a no in that column, what we can do instead is go to our graphical indicators, right? And go in here and say when it equals, and we're going to say yes in this case, right? In other words, if it's a yes, all right, then we want it to be, I don't know what we do here. We'll just do a little flag here, all right? So when it's yes in there, if it's no, we don't want anything. So we hit OK, and there we go. And of course we can make the column just maybe a little bit wider. And then we can also do a right click on it and go to field settings and make sure that the label and the indicator are both centered. There we go. So there we go. That's not too bad. Okay, so now another indicator, a little bit away from what we've been doing so far. This indicator I want to be in a number of different colors. So we'll have like a green indicator, a yellow, a red one, and a let's say a blue one. All right. Now the indicator is going to tell us how far, or how many, I should say, how many days is between today's date and let's say the starting date of a task. Okay, so if you can imagine you're in a point in time, let's say it's let's say April, and your project is starting in May. Okay, so you look at the project screen and you'll see an indicator to kind of show you in color basically how many days away you are from each of these starting out. Now, normally we could have it where it would be just a number showing how many days it is, and we can do that too. But I figured with the graphical indicator it might be a little bit better. We could just say something like, okay, if it's greater than or equal to 10 days, let's say, away from starting, I want the indicator to show green. If it's greater than just maybe 1 day and up to let's say 9 days, then I want that to be yellow. If it's right on, if it's like today or less even, so it's basically 0 or less, then that means we're in red. That means it should have started. So we should be on that one. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll put I guess we'll put the indicator here. We'll just keep them all together, I guess. So what we'll do is we'll do a right click on here. We'll tell it we want to insert a column. And now this one, because there's a number involved, it's a numeric or some sort of value, what we're going to do is we're not going to use the flag this time. We're going to use the cost field. So we're just going to use we can just use cost too. We'll start with that one. I'm only doing that because I think I did a cost one in some other video, so we won't get that all confused there. Okay, so it comes up cost two. Then we're going to do a right click on it. We're going to go here to custom fields. And we can just maybe call it, for a name, we'll just call it TS for maybe task start. And we'll hit OK on that. And then we've got the formula. Now the formula will be, I'm just going to kind of paste it in here, is this, okay? And it basically, it's evaluating, it's looking at the start date of the task in respect to the current date, all right? Whatever the current date is, right? And it's going to figure out the numeric value. And then, like I said, if we're 10 or more days away from starting, it'll show green. If it's 1 day or more up to, let's say, the 9 days, it'd be yellow. If it's starting like now, like no days, it's like today is the day, it'll show red. And then anything else, it'll show blue. All right, so we got that in there, and we hit OK. And we hit OK on that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is put the indicators in. So we're going to go down here to the graphical indicators. And on this one here, we're going to say if it's greater than or equal to, and then the number 10, if that's the case, then we want this to be a green indicator. And that's what we'll use here. Let's see what else we've got here. We'll actually use the happy face. We'll do that. So we'll go here, that'll be green. All right? And then the next one's going to be if it's greater than or equal to 1. So that'll give us like from 1 to 9. And if it's between 1 and 9 days, we want that to turn yellow. So we'll make that the yellow. We'll make that a happy yellow. All right. And then we'll go ahead and do the next one. The next one's going to be if it's less than or equal to 0. All right. So if it's less than or equal to, there we go, 0. All right. Then we want that to be red. And the only red one we got is a sad red, looks like. That's fine. And then the next one, if it's equal to 1,000, that'll be anything that falls through the cracks there. That was part of the formula. Then we'll make that one turn blue, or so we'll go with that one there. All right, perfect. So we'll hit OK on that, and then we'll hit OK again, and there we go. All right, let me get this fixed up first, and then we'll discuss what's going on here. So I'll go back in there to my custom, well, actually not custom, sorry about that. Go back into my field settings there, and make this also center and center. There we go. And I'll bring that in like that. Okay. So as you can see here, it goes from red. So that means that the current date is somewhere at this point here. Okay. So let me just show you something here. So let's say that I was to tell the project that the current date is June 1st of 2019, okay? So if I go back into project, go to project information, and I'll say that the current date is 6/1/19, right? Hit OK, and there we go. So being the first, and we're looking at this task here starting on the 5th, that's going to be that's a yellow indicator, and the yellow indicator is anything from 1 day to 9 days away, and then the green indicator is anything that's greater than 10 days away. Now, just to show you how this kind of works here, I'm going to go back into the current date here. I'm going to change the current date to well, let's just say we'll make it the 15th of June. All right, so I'll just go in here, just 6/15/19, hit OK. So there we go. Well, why is it red in this area here? Because that is showing the fact that today is actually the 15th, right? We're telling it that today's the 15th. So this is starting very soon. This is starting at least 10 days out, right? This is starting soon, right? And of course, the red ones are basically saying, hey, buddy, that's either supposed to get done today or yesterday or the day before or something like that. So we're kind of like at this point in time, like about right here. So that's what's happening with that. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of gives you an idea. Well, I guess we could actually change this a little, because the green is a little bit, that's pretty wild, because that's anything over, over 10. So greater than or equal to 10 would be the greens, right? So what we can actually do is go back in here and go back down to our indicators here, and we can insert a new row. And we can say something is greater than or equal to, and we can say something like maybe 20. All right. And if that's the case, then we want that to be. We'll make it a little bit different. We'll make it like a flag. Okay, like a green flag. All right. So I did that. All right. So hit OK. Hit OK. There we go. So now that's showing the greens, and then that. So when you see that flag, when you see the flag, that's letting you know that you're 20 days or more away from it starting. When you see the green, you're between 10 days and 19 days from it starting, and so forth. So whatever you want to do, you can give yourself as many indicators as you want. I think if you get too many, you're going to get confused as to color, but still, it kind of gives you a nice little color coding as to the starts for each of your tasks and how far off they are. Okay, so hopefully this gives you some ideas as to some indicators that you can set up. You got, I mean, the sky is the limit. You got so many different fields that you can base this stuff on. Um, but just keep in mind when you're doing the indicators, if there's some sort of a value that's associated with the outcome, then like we just last did, that's always going to be one of the costing fields that you'll use. If it's not, then you can just use a flag, or you can even use a text field too. You can either one. So hopefully this comes in handy for you. I appreciate you watching the video. Take care.